We're recording.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'd like to begin by thanking Marvin Washington for inviting us to share some time with you this afternoon. I'm Latanja Muhammad, certified college funding specialist and education loan analyst with College Planning Genius. My associate Brian Cox and I are going to share with you today how to send your child to college and leave your money at home. So I believe everyone's interested in that topic today,
Mm,
and we're going to jump right into it. So Brian and I are co-founders of the College Planning Genius, and Brian brings 27 years of college planning experience into this space, as well as a background as a stockbroker and corporate auditor. He is also a very proud alumnus and alumni recruiter for the University of South Carolina. I have been in the automotive and aircraft industries throughout my career. And after bumping my head and stumbling along through the college planning process with my sons, I actually began working with families as a college planner myself around 6 years ago, a little over 6 years ago. And I am a proud alum of Tuskegee University. So, just a little bit about my story. My sons were both high achieving students and applied to a lot of colleges. And my older son, Sultan, ended up going to Howard University. And a very valuable lesson that I learned with Sultan was the value of standardized test scores. If your students don't like taking tests or don't want to take tests, I really strongly encourage you to push them to take the test because they equate to thousands and thousands of dollars in free money for college. When Sultan was accepted into Howard, he was offered a scholarship package. And after he retook the ACT, he bumped his score up by just a couple points. But at Howard, that bumped him into a higher scholarship tier. And so immediately we got another package worth thousands of dollars or more money. So again, test scores mean money. That's lesson number one. With my younger son, Tariq, so one of the things that I was like most parents. I didn't know what I didn't know. And
mhm.
I was afraid of big price tags. Colleges that had large price tags, I was afraid that we wouldn't be able to afford it. And of course, we all know that Harvard has a big price tag. Well, I was very pleased and set and just surprised at how little out of pocket we had to pay for Harvard. In fact, it cost less than it would have cost us to go to U of M in Ann Arbor, Kalamazoo College, even U of M in Dearborn or Wayne State University. In fact, what we ended up paying out of pocket over 4 years at Harvard is actually less than what it cost to go to Harvard for one semester. And so you're going to see kind of how both of these learnings work in the actual process. So most parents don't know very much about the inner workings of the application, admission, financial aid processes. And so we're going to give some highlights and overviews of that today. Okay, so College Planning Genius, we literally save families hundreds of hours in research, and we're going to show you a little bit of how our system looks and works and why it's such a valuable system and a time-saving and effective system. Families that come to us and work with us are seeing six-figure offers and free money. And even in the appeals process on the back end, when families appeal the financial aid offers that colleges award them, we're getting almost $5,000 for 70% of our clients. In fact, we just worked with a family. They actually came to us late, so they didn't even go through the whole process with us. But we were able to get them an additional $7,500 through the appeal process. And the mom was so excited because within 12 hours of what we recommended that they send to the college, they got the offer for 7,500 more dollars. So it's a very effective process. And another thing that's really, really important is that students that work with us are graduating in 4 years, 85% of the time. And you'll see from some data we're going to share, that's not really the norm. And it's really important that our students graduate on time because number one, it costs more when they go to college longer. You're paying more for a 4-year degree than you should if they're in school longer than 4 years. And our students get the opportunity to enter into the workplace on time and start making their own lifetime income. And so locally, we've worked with numerous groups and organizations, DAPSEP, the Forward African Ancestry Network, United Way, Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, some parent networks and alumni groups, Rotary clubs, and more. So let's look at some of the challenges families are facing with sending their children to college. First of all, most students that come out of high school don't finish college. 14.7% of recent high school grads earn a degree in 6 years. Now, what we've been seeing in the data is that 39% of all students pursuing a bachelor's degree graduate within 4 years. That's pretty low. That's significantly less than half. But for the freshman class right now, the 2021-2022 freshman class in college, it's estimated that only 1 in 4 of those students will get their degree in 4 years. So the data is moving in the wrong direction where the 4-year rates are going even lower. We're trying to put a check on that, and our process will help put a check on that. Now, another thing, a couple things that are happening is most students are changing their major. That delays graduation. Over a third of students are transferring. So what is happening? Why do we have students that are changing their major and transferring after they get to college? Why didn't they pick the college where they were a good fit, where they felt like they belonged, where they felt like they were treated properly, where their rigor was suitable to the type of student that they were, and other factors that contribute to transferring? Well, it's a planning issue. And our process also addresses the changing the major issue as well as the transfer issue. 56% of students are dropping out by the 6-year mark. Now, Black students make up the highest dropout group at a rate of 54%. The number one reason that students do not finish college is that they run out of money. Number one reason. So Fox did a study and found that college costs are increasing 5 times greater than the rate of inflation, almost. And so it's not too difficult to see why people are having trouble paying for college as the years go on. It's getting more and more expensive every single year. So what this chart is showing is that if a student went to a public college and the costs had been increasing in line with inflation, for the 2021-2022 school year, a public college should have only cost around $10,000. But what it actually cost was around $20,000 because of the inflation rate of college, which is higher than general inflation. If a student went to a private college, that private college really should cost closer to $20,000, but instead, actually, private colleges cost more than $50,000 on average. And so 6.8% a year is around the inflation rate for college costs. So what that means, an example is, let's say you've got a student this year who wants to go to a college that costs $40,000. Well, by next year, that same college will cost $42,720, right? 3 years from now, that same college will cost $48,727. Now, you got an 8-year-old at home that has aspirations of going to college. For the same college that costs $40,000 today, that college will cost $77,278 in 10 years at the rate of 6.8 that it's been growing at on average. Now imagine for a moment colleges like Harvard and Dartmouth and Yale costing around $77,000, $78,000 today, what those costs will be. And so this is something that has to be proactively addressed. And so we're going to talk about how we address these college costs, and we can eliminate this as a concern for you. So one of the things that we know, and some of us are probably fall into this category, when we start to excel in our careers and in our incomes, some of us as Black people make the choice to move into more affluent suburbs. We move for safer neighborhoods, better schools, right? We believe that our students will have better academic outcomes if we can move them into better schools that many of the more affluent suburbs have. Well, if we look at Oakland schools, for example, students who graduated from Oakland schools in 2014, on average, finished their four-year degree. 22.6% of the students finished in 4 years. In 5 years, 38.2% finished. In 6 years, 44.4% finished of all students who graduated from the Oakland schools, right? Now let's look at the Black students. 5.5% of the Black students finished their bachelor's in 4 years. 12.5 in 5 years. 16.8 in 6 years. And no matter what county we look at, no matter what city we look at, no matter what school district we look at, even drilling down to individual schools, we see these huge disparities. So even when we move out into better neighborhoods and into better schools, our outcomes are still not what we really expect them to be or look for them to be. So let's look at where the money comes from for college. For 2021, in billions of dollars, most of the money came from the federal government. $92.6 billion in the form of federal loans, grants, tax credits, veterans benefits, work study, and SEOG. Now, other than loans, which don't really have income requirements, Pell Grants, tax credits, SEOG, these are primarily for the lower income families in the pool, right? And so we have the largest pool of money coming from the federal government, and a large majority of it, other than loans, is for families with lower incomes. And so the states throw in 13 billion, and then the private and employer scholarships that most of us are conditioned to go after. This is what most of us believe is going to be our source and our plan to pay for college. We think we can get it from Coca-Cola and the Elks and sororities and fraternities and churches and our employers. Only 12 billion out of all of the money came from private and employer grants. Well, outside of the federal dollars, colleges themselves kicked in $58 billion. This is the largest pool of money outside of what the federal government contributes toward education.
I have 1 minute, yes.
Institutional grants. Okay, so this is where we focus our attention on pulling the money from the colleges, and they paid out 58 billion with a lot more to pay out. So only 7% of students receive a scholarship at an average of $7,400. So again, taking on the part-time job of looking for scholarships, it's not the largest pool of money. So do you think it's the best way to use your time?
You can.
And you're only getting an average of $7,400. So another thing that we hear a lot about free rides. Free rides are very, very rare. Only 0.2% of students even get $25,000 or more in scholarships. So let's talk about solutions. Our college planning process, and I'm going to ask if everyone would please mute their line if your line is open. Thanks, everybody. So the college planning process, we have a systematic process, research-based. And the ultimate goal is to get your child in the best college, find the best fit college, academically, socially, and financially, right? Most parents come to us, they've already picked out a handful of colleges, and there are some favorites that everybody knows the names of. And quite often, the funds are not there that they need. Well, our process begins with assessments. The students are assessed to help them hone in on what their career path should be, what is most compatible with the person that they are. This helps to eliminate going back to that issue of changing majors when you get to college. No student should actually go to college undecided or general studies, but assessments taken throughout high school can help the students to zero in on the career paths that are most likely the best fit for them, where they have the skills and where they will feel fulfilled in that career choice.
Okay.
This process also helps with academic positioning. Again, we want the students to pick the schools where they will shine, where they will be a superstar, where they can attract the money. The financial positioning piece is what the parents love because on paper, legally and ethically, our process helps to position you for as much need-based financial aid as possible. And so we start out with a list of maybe 100 colleges in this list out of thousands of colleges. And the goal is going to be to end up with 8 to 12 colleges, again, that are the right fit, the best fit, academically, socially, and financially for the student and the parents, with the goal of graduating on time with a job or degree in hand. And that's what this process does. So let's take a look at what it looks like on the inside. When a family is in our system, a list of colleges is generated. We've got families with as many as 180 colleges in their starting list. And what's so great about this list is everything is right here at your fingertips. You don't have to go website to website, college fair to college fair. I'm not suggesting that you not go to college fairs. It's a great idea to go to college fairs and talk to individuals face to face. But to be able to research 100 or 200 colleges in one place and look at everything that you need to make your choice, it's invaluable. So this list, for example, shows the student's SAT score and how they fare compared to all of the colleges and universities in their list. So if a student is color coded light green, that means they're in the top 25 percentile. Yellow means they're in the middle 50. So when a family starts this process early, they have time to look at these test scores and say, DePaul is my dream school. I'm a little bit behind where I need to be in the top 25% of DePaul. If I'm a sophomore or freshman or even an early junior, I've got time to take the test again or twice so that I can get well into this top 25% or even get into the top 10% so that I can have an excellent probability of not only getting accepted, but getting merit aid. Going down further in the list, you start to see schools that are red. These are the schools where the student is in the bottom 25%. Again, if you're starting early enough, maybe this is a practice test. This could even be a PSAT. The students can say, hey, I want to go to Notre Dame. Right now, I'm at 1260. I've got time to get to the 1550. I can do some test prep. My weakness is reading. I can work on my reading. I've got time. And in this system, you can also look at there are virtual tours of all of these colleges and universities, and you can check them out. That can help you narrow down. This list also has scholarship guides. Every college in here has their own listing of scholarships that are available and the criteria. You can look at the deadlines. You can look at the percent need met. You can look at the acceptance rate and the retention rate for hundreds of colleges at one time in one place. So another criteria, merit aid. For families that have higher incomes, even though we're going to get you as broke as possible on paper, legally and ethically, of course, for families that have higher incomes, it's really important that we look at schools that are going to provide the most amount of merit aid that your child will qualify for. And so this is a really important table because at a glance, they can see what all of the schools in their list are offering in terms of merit aid on average. They can see the costs, whether they're an in-state or out-of-state student, and the number of students receiving merit aid. This is a great list that will help the students to start to eliminate schools that aren't offering any money. This is how we get down to that list of 8 to 12 schools. Now we get down into these turquoise colored schools. These are the schools that meet 100% of need. And if you notice, they tend to be highly competitive colleges. Well, we also know that a lot of these colleges have huge endowments. So for the students that are fortunate enough to get accepted into these colleges, the money is there to meet all of the financial need you can demonstrate. And so there are about 60 colleges who meet 100% of a family's need. So again, this process, this list, this system is a tremendous part in helping families send their child to college and leave their money at home. This is how we get down to the 8 to 12 colleges that your child has an excellent chance of getting into and getting money to attend. And so the second half of this presentation is going to focus on how you can leave your money at home and the financial positioning piece. So Brian, take it away. You're on mute, Brian.
Okay, am I off mute now?
Yes.
Okay, now can you see my screen? There we go.
There we go.
All right, excellent. Good afternoon, Stellantis. As Latanya said, this is a two-part presentation. And so I'd like to welcome you to the second half of Send Your Child to College. Leave your money at home, or as I like to refer to it, as Send Your Child to College using other people's money. My name is E. Brian Cox, and I approve this message. So let's get into it. College, if you didn't know that already, is a business, and we must treat it as such. The Wall Street Journal, U.S. News and World Report, Forbes, Barron's, just about every major financial publication and organization has stated that college is about a $672 billion business annually. If you check your location, you may find that the highest paid public employee in your state is either the flagship college's football coach or basketball coach. Here in Michigan, the football coach is Jim Harbaugh, and he is the highest paid public employee in the state. As a matter of fact, here in Michigan, the largest employer in the entire state of Michigan is the University of Michigan. Indeed, college is a business. As a matter of fact, it's such a business that U.S. News and World Report has said that an uneducated consumer is their best customer. Our goal here today is to empower you so that we can remove you from the uninformed consumer to the informed consumer. So, how do you pay for college? Basically, when you boil it all down, it really comes to just two sources of money. You can pay for college using your own money, or you can pay for college using other people's money. As the title of our presentation states, send your child to college, leave your money at home. Our goal is to help you use other people's money so that you can put your money to other uses, such as planning for retirement and things like that. Now, as Latanja mentioned earlier, my background is accounting. I have a Bachelor's of Science from the University of South Carolina in accounting. I have 6 years of auditing experience with Pepsi and J.C. Penney, and then about 22 years experience as a stockbroker with American Express. And through all that, I was taught that when a business is operating at a loss, it is said to be in the red. So hence, you see that the your money side of paying for college operates in the red. I was taught that businesses that operate on as a profit, they're operating in the black. So hence the other side of my slide, for the families who use other people's money, we feel that they are operating in the black or are actually making a profit in sending their children to college. So those families that choose, because it is truly a choice, those families that choose to use their own money for college, how do they do it? Well, some families have been fortunate enough to plan ahead, and they have some savings, 529 plans, some investments. As a matter of fact, as I looked at the list of RSVPs, I noticed that we asked the question of, well, what is your plan to pay for college? And scholarships was the number one response. In other groups, prayer kind of battles with scholarships. So we figure that people are praying for scholarships. But overall, among all the comments, money was the most talked about topic. Over 112 responses said, well, we're in this for the money. Okay, so that's our goal today, is to show you how to find that money and use other people's money. Now, a lot of people have uh, savings and investments in the form of uh, mutual funds and 529 plans, some insurance, just cash, savings bonds, and things like that. And that's great that you have those things, but it would be even greater if you could not only have those, but keep them and not have to give them away to the college. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. So the second way that people use their own money to pay for college is through what we call cash flow or discretionary income. You're probably familiar with this, that after you receive your paychecks, you pay your mortgage, your rent, your car notes, your insurance, you put some food on the table, you keep the lights on, and that sort of thing. And hopefully, at the end of that month, you've got some additional money available, and you're able to reach out to the college and sign an installment agreement whereby you may pay them on a monthly basis, or 4 payments per semester, or 10 payments over the course of the year, to fill whatever gap that was left after any sorts of scholarships and awards and that sort of thing. Now, it's great that you have that extra cash flow that you can send it to the college. Hopefully, we can help you find some ways to keep that cash flow in your pocket and invest it for some quote unquote more fun things. And then the third way that people who use their own money pay for college is through loans. Um, Loans are a financial tool designed to make college more affordable. However, most people misuse these loans, and most people don't like these loans. What I'm going to say to you today, I'm going to challenge your way of thinking about paying for college, and I'm going to say that after scholarships, grants, and free money, loans are the greatest thing since sliced bread. If a person does not like education loans, they truly do not understand how they work. Now, you may notice that in the news, especially now, loan forgiveness and other things that politicians are floating out there, uh, we supposedly have a student loan crisis. And I submit to you today is that is because the folks who have these loans don't really understand how they work. And we're going to give you an insight to that today. So let's get on the good side. Other people's money. Well, as I said before in the questionnaire, everybody said scholarships. Most popular, that's the gold standard for going to college, scholarships. Well, let me be the bearer of a little bit of bad news. About 1 in 500 students receive enough money to pay for college using scholarships, or about 0.2%. Okay. Uh, our system, our process is designed to put you in the position to have 6 to 10 schools offer you maximum scholarships. As Latanja indicated, 100 grand and up is about the average per school of the 6 to 10 when you go through our system. So our system is designed to put you in touch with all the scholarships, hopefully, that you might need. Now, the second area of other people's money that's on the good side of the ledger are grants. Grants are a reward for quote unquote having need at a particular school. There's a formula: cost of attendance minus your expected family contribution, which is your a dollar amount that the government and the schools feel that you can afford. So the cost of attendance minus the expected family contribution equals your need. If you have need at any college in America, you are eligible for grants. And we're going to show you how we can maximize that grant eligibility. And the third way that families can use other people's money is loans. Now you may wonder, well, gee, we've got loans on the bad side and we've got loans on the good side. Well, a loan, as I said before, is a financial tool designed to help make college more affordable. You can think of it like a hammer. If you have a hammer and you're trying to drive in a nail and you hit your thumb, it's not the hammer's fault, it's the operator's fault. Same way with loans. Loans are great tools when you know how to use them. If you don't know how to use them, they will hurt you. We're going to talk about that too. So, if given the choice to pay for college using your own money or using other people's money, how would you choose to pay for college? All right, scholarships. That's what everybody's looking for. Let's talk about them a little bit. Now, scholarships are a reward for outstanding academic, athletic, or artistic accomplishments by your students. Now, we all know whether our students right here, right today, if they're old enough, we know whether they're outstanding athletes. We know whether or not they've got some CDs out on the internet, whether or not they're outstanding artists. And we also, to some degree, we know whether or not they're great academic students. Our goal here is to help you grow all three of those areas if your students qualify. So scholarships, there are about 19 different categories in which a college will evaluate your student when they apply, not only for admission, but also for financial aid and merit awards. So we're going to take a look. I've got about 10 of them listed here. We're going to take a look at just a couple of the 19. So these are their stories. Now, that 62 that's exploding on the screen is some time ago, a highly selective school was called before Congress to testify exactly how they package these scholarship programs up and how they use the federal government's money. So at this particular school, they said that for every A that's on your student's transcript, they would pay $62 in their financial aid package. So here in Michigan, because we're here, let's just keep my numbers simple. And let's just say that a student takes 5 classes in the fall semester, 5 classes in the spring. They do that for 4 years: ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. So that's 40 classes. And let's just assume that they were to get an A in each one of those classes. That would be worth $2,480 in a financial aid package for the freshman year. And if they kept up the requirements, the GPA requirements throughout their college career, that 2480 would be renewed each year for a total over a 4-year college career of $9,920. Not bad. 115, that's exploding. Students have to take, or for the most part, beside COVID, have to take a standardized test, either the ACT or the SAT. And at this school, if a student scored for every 20 points, every 10 points above the average SAT score for the incoming freshman class, they were awarded $115. So let's just make the assumption that at this particular school, the average score of applicants was 1,000, and our students scored 1,200. That's 200 above the average. They would get $115 for every 10 points. So they would receive $2,300 in a financial aid package in the form of merit aid. And again, if they kept up their GPA requirements over their career, that would be 4 years at $2,300 or $9,200 in 4-year education free money. So if you add up just two of the 19 categories that colleges evaluate, that's $19,120. And if you just take the average and run that by the 19 categories, you're looking at over $140,000 of free money for college. Students have to go to class. They have to get a grade. Might as well get an A when you can. They have to take the test. Might as well do as well as you can on the test, because as Latanya said earlier, these tests mean money. As a matter of fact, the New York Times did a front page story about high school grades. They could be worth $100,000. Your eighth grader probably should know about it, because if you look at this, you apply, or a student applies for college beginning in their senior year. So colleges, for the most part, don't even look at your senior year grades. So you got ninth grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade to impress these colleges. And that's where the money is. So I would ask that we sit down with our eighth graders in the summer and let them know about how this system works. Now, grants, the second area of free money for college. As I said before, a grant is a measure of a family's ability to pay. You take that cost of attendance, which is tuition, room and board, books, travel, personal expenses, everything you might expect to spend while you're at college, and you minus out the family's expected family contribution, which is when you fill out the FAFSA form. They take a look at the parent and the student's income, their ages, the number of people in school, their assets, and they come up with a dollar amount that they feel that based on that you can afford. The answer to that is your need, and that's how much money a family is eligible for at a particular school. So just a simple example here is you finish school with a cost of attendance of 50,000. The family's expected family contribution is 20,000. At that school, that family would need 30,000 to attend. Now, originally, it was the goal of the federal government, the college, and the state government to meet the family's needs. Those things don't happen anymore. We'll take a look at that. All right, here's a family, the Smythe family. And I blacked out the names of the colleges in this particular example. But here's a private college on the left, and their cost of attendance is 68,000. This family's expected family contribution is 8,000, so they needed 60,000 to attend. This school is a particularly generous school. They will meet 95% of a family's need. And the way that they do that is they break it up and give you 84% of that 95% in grants and scholarships, or free money, money you do not have to repay. And the rest of it is in the form of self-help, which is work study, loans, things that you have to repay. So let's compare that to the state university in this example. And the cost to attend this university is $29,000, less than half of what it is to attend the private school. The expected family contribution at all schools stays the same, which in this case is 8,000. So this family only needs $21,000 to attend. This school, however, is not as generous. They only meet 50% of the family's need. So in this particular case, they leave a family with over $10,500 in unmet need. Now, what even gets a little worse is that the way that they meet that need is they only provide 62% in gift aid or free money, and the bulk of that is in self-help, work study, and loans. So what would you actually pay at each school? Looking at the private school, family's EFC is 8,000. They have an unmet need of 3,000. So to go to this school, the family would be looking at spending $11,000. Contrast that to the state university where the cost to attend was literally less than half, sticker price. You're looking at a total out of pocket of $18,500. Now, that's kind of interesting, but let's take a look at a couple other things. The purpose, obviously, of going to college is to graduate and get a degree and find a rewarding career. The private college graduates students in 4 years at a rate of 72%. The state school graduates students at a 4-year rate of 58%. So let me understand this. You want me to pay more money to attend a school that's going to take me longer to graduate from. And when families sit down to pick schools, these are some of the things that they need to address and be aware of. And our system, or any college planning system, if you're going to do it right, you need to consider these factors, because these factors will cost you or save you significant dollars. Grants. How do we get these grants? We want these grants. How do we get them? Well, we have a room in the office, and back in the day when people actually came to the office in person before COVID, we called it Welcome to the Poorhouse. As Latanji mentioned earlier, one of the ways that we help families is we're going to make you poor on paper. You may come into our office affluent. You will leave broke, legally and ethically. So how do we do that? Let's take a look at this family. See if I can blow this up. Okay. Family came in. I'm not going to go through everything, but a family came in and their adjusted gross income was 120,000. Parent number one earned 60, and I rounded these numbers. Parent number two earned 60 also. Let's be fair to everybody in the family. So they paid 13,000 in federal taxes, and they had some untaxed income that actually counts against them when we're trying to get them more money for school. So what we did was they happened to be business owners, so we were able to help them expense everyday living expenses, automobiles, children, entertainment, food, those sorts of things that everybody uses, cell phones, computers, all that kind of thing. And we were able to legally and ethically get their adjusted gross income down to $42,000. Now, we also help to reposition some of their assets, because assets count against you when you are applying for financial assistance at a school. Obviously, if you walk up to a school with a bag full of money, the school is going to be unlikely to reward you with financial assistance. So the goal is to, once again, legally and ethically shelter that bag full of money. So in this particular example with this family, they had $6,000 that they kept, wandering around in the checking and savings account. They had another $30,000 in mutual funds. They had home equity of 100,000. A little bit over 250 or so colleges count home equity against you. Most colleges don't. And they had about 200K in their retirement funds. Now, retirement funds do not count against you once they're in the retirement fund, the 401K, the 457, the 403B. But contributions to retirement funds do get added back in, so they do count against you for determining your expected family contribution. So in reference to assets, we removed the 6,000 from the checking and savings, put it somewhere else. We removed the 30,000 in investments and put it into what's called the unaccessible categories of assets. Bottom line, they still had $336,000 of assets, but now it was just redistributed and put in categories that didn't hurt them when they applied for financial assistance. So what was the bottom line effect? When they walked in the door, they were expected to pay 18,000 and some change per year for college. when they walked out, they were expected to not have to contribute one dime for college. That's potentially 73,000 and some change in free uh, eligibility for financial assistance. When they applied to the 250 or so more expensive and more selective schools, they would have been expected to contribute 26,000 and some change. When they walked out the office, those schools were only looking at them for 2,400, which is an increase in financial aid eligibility of about $95,000. Now, we may not have that great results for everyone, but again, that's the goal. We want to use every legal and ethical strategy to eliminate the cost of a college education for our families. And the third way that you can use other people's money to pay for college is through education loans. Now, loans are the red-headed stepchild of college finance. Nobody likes them. Nobody wants them. So I will reiterate what I said earlier. If you have federal, let me put the emphasis on federal loans, student and or parent loans, and you don't like them, you haven't read the contracts. You don't know what they can do for you. I took this quote. One of my clients, a pastor, kind of gave this one to me. He allowed me to use it. And it says that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, student loan knowledge. Okay. New York Times did a story uh, about a family who was basically bankrupt. They had borrowed money for college. They couldn't repay it. And so they lost their home. They had to move into an apartment. I mean, it was just a terrible, terrible story, a tearjerker of a story. But buried within that story was just a simple solution. The mom in this case, in that picture, she was disabled. With federal student loans, they are discharged at death and or disability. All it took would be for them to let the servicer and the federal government know that the borrower was disabled. They fill out a form, they wait for that disability to be verified, loans would be discharged. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. All right, let's take a look at that. Finish up on these loans things. We had a family who came to us late. That seems to be a theme, people coming to us late. And they got a bill for their college. They had decided this was the college that we want to attend. This is where our son needs to go. This is where mom wanted him to go. This is where dad wanted him to go. The student received no scholarships. The family was not eligible for grants. And unfortunately, they hadn't had the opportunity to save money for college. So in order for this child to attend this school, they were going to have to borrow the money. And they were understandably concerned. Okay. And over a 4-year career, they would borrow over $207,000, which is more than their current mortgage was. So let's take a look. All right. In taking out these loans, they were given the default repayment, the standard repayment, $2,234 a month over the next 10 years. They would repay $268,000. Now, surprisingly, they could not afford $2,234 a month over and above everything else they were paying for. Now, this family made about about 148,000 as a household income. So they weren't doing bad, okay? But they couldn't afford 22.34 a month. So I said, well, why don't we just do something simple? Just extend the repayment period. Let's just turn this student loan into quote unquote a mortgage. That dropped the payment almost half to $1,159, but they would be paying over 30 years, and they would pay back a total of $417,000. Now, the $1,159 was, they said, hey, we probably can make that work. So yeah, we like that kinda. And I said, well, you may like it and it may work for you, but I can't put my name on it. So let's see what else we can do. Maybe there's something. Well, let's restructure this debt. let's not accept what they gave us. Let's tell them what we want. So we restructured the loan. Real simple. It's just a form. Sometimes just do it on a phone call. But if you don't know, you don't know. So this dropped the payment to $535 a month. And it dropped the term down to 25 years. Now, they were very happy with that, but they had a question. They said, Mr. Cox, something is wrong with your math. How can we repay a total of $160,000 when we borrowed 207? That's less than we borrowed. Something's wrong. I said, no, it's not wrong. We get to tell them how we want to repay this loan. Those are the rules. Those are the regs. And they said, well, okay, well, let's go. Let's do this. I said, well, let's try something else. So we laddered a strategy on top of this particular debt structure, which knocks the payment down to $210 a month. We're still stretching it out over that same 25-year period, but in this case, we only are repaying $63,000. Once again, there was a question about my math skills. How in the world can you borrow $207,000 and only repay $63,000? And I said, well, that's the magic of the federal loan system, if you know how it works. So they wanted to do that one. I said, well, okay, let me show off now. Let's do something else, and let's tack on another strategy on top of the two that we're using so far. Knocks the payment down to 135. Still stretching it out over 25 years. Total repayment is 40,000. Again, they're happy with all of these. I'm not. So we're going to scrap everything we've done so far, and we're going to start from scratch. And we're going to pick a different loan structure. The goal here is because many people don't want to have to fill out a form or make a payment for 20 years, 25 years, or 30 years. So by going through this process, we may be able to not only knock down payment, but knock down term. So in this particular case, their payment went up a little bit, $158 a month, but we cut back on 5 years of repayment. So now we're repaying over 20 years. Total repayment is only $37,000. Now let me say something right here. Now, in my mind, the difference between a scholarship, which is what everybody wants, and a loan, is which what everybody hates, is, as the pastor told me, he didn't like loans because you got to pay back all that interest. I want to challenge you on that. You do that if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. So this particular family had a unique situation. They actually qualified after you restructured this debt. They actually qualified for a $0 monthly repayment. Now they have to prove that they qualify for that each and every year. Once a year on an anniversary, they have to send in what's called a recertification form. StudentAid.gov says that form takes about 10 minutes online. So let me ask you, is it worth 10 minutes of your time? And let me say this. Let's just bump that up and say it takes you an hour to complete the paperwork. You do it once a year. Is it worth an hour of your time once a year to be able to send your child to a $207,000 college and it not cost you any money? You can go in the chat and you can answer that question. But in this particular case, this family will qualify for a $0 repayment when the loans are structured properly. Now, again, I'm just showing off at this point. I said, well, you guys may not want to have to fill out that hour form once a year for the next 20 years. What if we can knock that down to only 10 years? Now, your payment has to go up, back up to that 158 level, and you will repay a total of $18,960, but you only got to do it for 10 years. So 1 hour every year for 10 years, that's 10 hours. And you get to save almost $190,000. Now I know Stellantis is a quality corporation, but I don't think they're paying you, a couple tens of $1,000s an hour. I don't know. I'm just speculating. Finally, because of the unique structure of this family, they qualify for a $0 repayment. And after the restructuring we've done of the debt, they get to deal with this only for the minimum of 10 years. So over a 10-year period, 1 hour a year of paperwork, make no payments, walk away from $207,000, and their child has a high quality degree and hopefully is well on its way to a rewarding career. Once again, if you don't like federal student loans, you truly do not know how they work. So, if you were given the choice to use your money or other people's money to pay for college, which option would you choose? Okay, enough with that. Let's wrap this thing up. So, how can college planning genius and how does college planning help families? LaTanya talked about student assessments. One of the ways that you eliminate this 5 year, 6 year, 7 year, 8 year college career is that you get to know the student, and the student picks schools based on the way that schools are going to help that student graduate and get a job at the end of 4 years. Some students don't like large classrooms. Some students do better working one-on-one or five-on-one with professors and study groups. Every college out there has a way that they deliver their education. Our goal is to match the way that your student receives the education to the way that the colleges deliver the education. Okay? Strategic planning, as she said before, you're going to start out this process with maybe 150, 100, 200 colleges that meet your needs on purpose. And as we work through this process, we're going to whittle those down based on what you like and what works best for your family, not only academically, socially, but also financially. Financial positioning and financial aid, that's where we put you in the poorhouse. We want to qualify you for the maximum amount of financial assistance possible legally and ethically. We're going to look at schools that are generous with their financial aid package, because it doesn't do us any good to make you poor on paper and get your student in the top 25% of the income in class and qualify for all these scholarships if the school doesn't have any money. We've kind of we're just spinning our wheels at that point. Course selection, we're going to assist, our system assists you with those sorts of things. There are certain colleges that look for certain types of classes. They want to see what type of rigor you may have. So we're going to, when we're looking at schools, we're going to match those to the goal of the family and the students. Summer job shadowing and those sorts of things. You know, we had a person one time that went to school that wanted to become a nurse. Well, they found out after going through this type of process that they weren't really comfortable with blood. You know, it's hard to be a nurse if you're not comfortable with blood. Okay, those sorts of things should not happen in the college planning process. Standardized tests, test prep. These tests can be studied for. Your scores can be improved. These scores are worth money. At the University of South Carolina, where I serve as a volunteer recruiter at our school, test scores are worth up to $198,000 in free money. Those are high scores, you know. They're not low scores. But the point is that you can study for these tests and you can improve your scores. In our system, if your student's a junior in high school right now, our system has your student with letters of recommendation already in their pockets at the end of the year, or at least over the summer, because we're looking to have your student have their 6 to 10 schools ready to go in the fall. We want applications, resumes, and essays. That's summer work. We don't want to be waiting to the end. We don't want to be waiting till Christmas. These things have to be done early if you're going to profit from this process. Some colleges still want interviews, selective schools. Many students aren't necessarily comfortable in interviews, so our system helps to prepare them so they have an impactful interview. LaTanya touched on campus visits. earlier, we have some points that we want families to cover when they go on visits that are very important. Essays. They say essays is the fifth most important component of a college application. There are things that you can do to define yourself on paper and in your essays and make it stand out. Uh, Applications for all these colleges that you're going to apply to, want to make sure that they're going in on time and they're going in and presenting your student in the best possible light. And then you have decision day. Decision day should be a celebration. It should not be nerve-wracking. We should know before the decision is made uh, which school is going to treat our student and give our student the best opportunity for a rewarding experience and a rewarding career. Next steps. We're going to open it up at this time for any questions and answers, or you can use the link below to schedule your free 38-minute complimentary consultation. And we chose that 38-minute consultation because the American Association of School Counselors says that due to their tremendous caseload, high school counselors have about 38 minutes to go through the entire college selection, planning, and funding process with your student. It took us more than 38 minutes to do this webinar. So once again, the goal is to use every legal and ethical strategy to eliminate the cost of a college education and make this a fun and rewarding process for you and your family. Okay, Latanya, let's open it up for questions.
Okay, so yeah, I was fielding a few questions in the chat so far. We got one question about our compensation. Yes, we have a fee structure that's based on our services. And another question was for a 2-year-old, when should I begin this planning? And we always say as soon as you see the blue line on the stick, that's when planning should start for college. So you're in the time frame for saving strategies, and you wanna learn some strategies that are going to optimize how your money can work and grow for you over the next 16 years. Because if you were here for the early part of the webinar, that's Whitney, you see how college costs are increasing at rates that are outpacing inflation, and for most of us, outpacing our merit increases, our annual increases, right? So the saving strategies are going to be really, really important for you now. If anyone would like consultation, I put the link in the chat. Please copy that link and schedule your complimentary consultation if you would like to talk a little bit more about your individual situation and how we may be able to assist you. Any other questions? And I think Marvin has already dropped off, but I want to thank Stan again and Marvin for having us again today. I see a question about a 529 plan. Should you continue or suspend it? That is not something that we can just tell you right here, a yes or no answer. But we can look at your overall financial picture and help you to come up with a solution that makes the most sense for you in the short term as well as the long term. You want to add anything to that, Brian?
Not really. I mean, a 529 is an excellent tool. It does exactly what it's designed to do, and that is to accumulate money for the purposes of paying for college. And it does it in a tax efficient way. It's great depending upon the asset allocations and things like that. It does count against you when you apply for financial aid. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but there might be more efficient ways to accumulate money for college and ultimately not have it count against you and not have to actually use it. So those are the things that we tend to explore with families who are interested in maintaining and building their wealth and not depleting their wealth.
All right, so I hope that answered your question, Carrie. And congratulations, Brenda, on your son's accomplishments. He's got a 4.0. He's in the top 10%. That's awesome. Yes, and you've scheduled a consultation. That's wonderful. We look forward to talking with you, definitely. Daughter just got accepted into medical school. Does this apply to med school expenses? Well, we primarily work with undergrad, but a lot of the things that Brian talked about on, especially on the loan side, we find that families are using federal loans for advanced degrees. And so if if you'd like to talk with us a little bit more about it, look at the costs and look at some options of how she doesn't necessarily have to be burdened and overwhelmed with loans for the rest of her life if she takes those, if she hasn't been able to get her medical school costs covered. We can go in a little more detail with you and her, if you like, on how the loans could potentially work in her favor and help her achieve her goals. All right, does anyone else have any questions? I know we're a little bit over, and I know you probably have meetings, but sure, we'll take more questions for whoever else is still here. Okay. Well, we really appreciate your time and attention on this Friday afternoon, and we hope this information was beneficial to you. I posted our website and our email address also in the chat. Please copy those as well. If you'd like to reach out to us later, you can screenshot this page as well. And we look forward to talking with those of you who have already scheduled your consultations. We appreciate that. And we look forward to additional questions. Thank you so much, Stan. It's been our pleasure to be here. Have a great weekend.
Have a good weekend.